Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Today, inshallah, we are going to continue our lessons in the macroeconomics course. This chapter, we are going to study the unemployment and its effects and importance in the macroeconomics. So let's start with why we study the unemployment. We see in the chapter 3 the general definitions about the unemployment and unemployment rate and labor force and so on. So now we are going to study the employment and its different types and causes and what are the governmental policies to deal with this problem. Why we study the unemployment? Economists study unemployment to identify its causes and to help to improve the public policies that affect the unemployed people. So some of these policies, such as the job training programs, help people find employment. Other policies, such as unemployment insurance, alleviate some of the hardships of that the unemployed face. Still, other policies affect the prevalence of unemployment inadvertently, as laws mandating the high minimum wage, for instance, are widely thought to raise unemployment. Some economists think that the laws that issued to maximize the minimum wage of the workers may increase the unemployment among the least skilled and least experienced members of the labor force. So in this chapter, we begin our study of unemployment by discussing why there's always some unemployment rate and what determines the level of the unemployment in the society. We don't know, we don't study what determines the year-to-year fluctuations in the rate of unemployment, as we discussed before, until the fourth part of our course, which examines the short-run economic fluctuations. But now we are dealing with the classical theory, as you know, and in the long run, and so on. So now we are not going to study the year-to-year fluctuations of unemployment. So here we examine the determinants of the natural rate of unemployment. The natural rate of unemployment, which is the average rate of unemployment around which the economy fluctuates. So the natural rate of unemployment is the rate of unemployment towards which the economy gravitates in the long run, given all the labor market imperfections that impede workers from instantly finding jobs. We can see here from this chart in the green scale the unemployment rate in the short run. You can see many fluctuations, ups and downs, and so on. And the red one is for the natural rate of unemployment. So there is always some unemployment. We can see the natural rate of unemployment is the average level around which the unemployment rate fluctuates. The natural rate of unemployment for any particular month is estimated here by averaging all the unemployment rates from 10 years earlier to 10 years later, and future unemployment rates are set as 5.5 here in this case. So we have many topics in this chapter. First, let's look uh, at the job laws and job finding and the natural rate of unemployment. As we said, it is the average rate of unemployment around which the economy fluctuates. For example, in a recession, the actual unemployment rate rises above the natural rate. We know the recession when the growth rate declines in the economy, so there is no production, there is no employment, and so on. So in this case, the actual unemployment rate rises above the natural rate. And if the average or the natural rate is 5%, in the recession it will be مثلا 9%. in a boom, in contrast, in a boom, when the growth rate increasing, the actual unemployment rate falls below the natural rate, so it may be a 3%, 2%, and so on, because there is uh, increasing growth rate, production, and employed people, and so on. So it is the normal unemployment rate the economy experiences when it is neither in a recession nor in a boom. The natural rate of return is the normal unemployment rate of the economy or the economy experience when it is not in a recession or a boom. It is the normal one in between. So we can see here from this chart the transitions between the employment and unemployment. You can see here in every period a fraction of the employed people lose their jobs, which are here is called denoted by S for job separation. Job separation, who leave their job or lose their job. So in every period in time in any society, a fraction of the employed people lose their jobs, and also this leads to unemployment. Then we can see also a fraction of unemployed people, which is here in F, the job finding, fraction of unemployed people who find jobs. So S for separation of this job, and F is finding a job. So the rates of job separation and job finding determine the rate of unemployment. The rates of this job separation and job finding determine the rate of unemployment. We will see how this happens in the next. So we now have our model of the natural rate of unemployment. We can see the notation of this model as we used to. The L is for the number of workers in the labor force. L, the total number of workers in the labor force, which consists of, if you remember, the employed people, which is E, the number of employed workers, and U is the number of unemployed people. So L is the sum of the employed and the unemployed people. L equals E plus U. So how can we compute the unemployment rate? By dividing the unemployment, the number of the unemployed people, divided by the total number of the labor force. Because every worker is either employed or unemployed. So the labor force is the sum of the employed and the unemployed. As we used to also, any model have its own assumptions. Here we can see that the labor denoted by L is fixed, and during any given month, the S or the fraction of employed workers that become separated from their jobs. This is S. Okay, and it is called the rate of job separations. And if, as we know, for the job finding, the fraction of unemployed workers that find jobs, so it is called the rate of job finding. Let's see again the transitions between the employed and unemployed here, as you can see. So S is the fraction of the employed people, and F is the fraction of the unemployed people. So when we assume that the steady case or the steady state condition in which the labor market is in steady state or long run equilibrium, if the unemployment rate is constant. If the unemployment rate is constant, so it is called the steady state. So what are the steady state condition? We can see that the number of employed people who lose or leave their jobs in this case equals the number of the unemployed people who find jobs. This is the steady state when the unemployment rate is constant. The fraction of people who lose their jobs equals to the fraction of people who find new jobs. So how can we find the equilibrium for the unemployment rate? As if we take this equation, F U equals S E, and we know that if you look at the right side, we know that E, the employed people, is the labor force, the total labor force minus the unemployed. So in this case, S L will be minus S U, and to solve this equation for the natural rate of unemployment by dividing the unemployed people divided by the total labor force, we can find that it's the equals the S divided by S plus F, or the fraction of the number of the people who lose their jobs divided by the sum of the number of the people, the total people who lose their jobs or find new jobs. So this equation showed that the steady state rate of unemployment depends on rates of job separation S and job finding F. That's what we talked about at the beginning. That the unemployment rate depends on the fraction or the rate of the job separation and the job finding. So the higher the rate of job separation, the higher the unemployment rate, because the number of people who lose their jobs is more. And the higher the rate of job finding, the lower the unemployment rate, because the number of people who find new jobs are more. So the unemployment rate decrease in this case. Let's take an example. For each month, for example, 1% of employed workers lose their jobs. And if we assume that we have the labor force is 100 persons, so one of them each month lose their jobs. So here S equals 1% or 0.01, and 19% of unemployed workers find jobs. So F here will equal 19% or 0.19. So we can find the natural rate of unemployment by this way. The unemployed divided by the labor force, U divided by L, equals S divided by S plus F. So it will be like this: 0.01 divided by the total sum of dot 0.01 plus 0.19. So it will be 0.05 or 5%. So the natural rate of unemployment in this case, which is determined by the number of people who lose their job or not find new jobs, will be 5%. So this is the natural rate of unemployment. According to this, we can see some policy implication that will reduce the natural rate of unemployment only if it lowers the S, or the number of people who loses their jobs, or increasing if the number of people who find new jobs. So if we know this, why there is still unemployment? If we know that, how to fix this problem by increasing the F, or the job finding, or decreasing the job separation, and so on, but still have unemployment. Why? If job finding were instantaneous, happened immediately, then all spells or circuits of unemployment would be brief, and the natural rate would be near zero, when if the job finding A is instantaneous. So there are two reasons why the job finding is less than 1, and consequently the unemployment rate is more than 0. We have two main reasons: the job search and the wage rigidity. The job search and wage rigidity, which we will continue our chapter about these two reasons. The first one, the job surge related to a kind of the unemployment which is called the frictional unemployment. The frictional unemployment which is related to the job surge. The frictional unemployment caused by the time it takes workers to search for job. So this type of unemployment deals with the time of people, what that people takes to search for new jobs. And it occurs even when wages are flexible and there are enough jobs to go around. Why this type of frictional unemployment happens? Because the workers have different abilities and preferences. So maybe they have abilities that they can find a suitable job for their abilities and skills, and also maybe they have different preferences. They prefer this job than the other, and so on. So he takes time to find the job that he prefers and suits his abilities. And also the jobs have on the other side, jobs have different skill requirements also. So it takes time to find the suitable workers to their requirements. Also, the geographic mobility of workers not instantaneous. And finally, the flow of information about vacancies and job candidates is imperfect. So, related to the frictional unemployment, we have also the sectoral shifts. The sectoral shifts, which happens the changes in the composition of demand among industries or regions. The changes in the composition of demand among industries or regions. What does this mean? For example, the technological change. يعني مثلا for example more jobs repairing computers makes fewer jobs repairing typewriters. The technological change that now we can there is no demand for people who work for typewriters or repair typewriters because now we have the PC or personal computer that needs another type of workers who have different skills and abilities and so on. So the demand for the people who work or repair for typewriters decreased. Also, this is the technological change. Another reason is in the sectoral shift is the new international trade agreement, as the labor demand increases in export sectors and decreases in import competing sectors. And it differs according to the international trade agreements from a country to another. So the result from all these changes or sectoral shifts causes the frictional unemployment. Plus طبعا the time for finding a suitable job. And we can see here the structure change over the long run. For example, in 1960s, we can see the service sectors was only 57.9%. And the manufacturing was 28% and agriculture is 4.2%. And by time in 2000, we can see the increasing of the service sectors to 73%, which was before 40 years was 55% only. Also, the manufacturing sector decreased to 17% from 22 and so on. So this is an example for the sectoral change in the economy and what causes the frictional unemployment. More examples for the sectoral shifts we can see in the 19th century there is a decline in agriculture and increasing in manufacturing. Then in the 20th century, also there is a relative decline in manufacturing and increasing in the service sector. And at the 70s of the 20th century, we can see energy crisis caused a shift in demand away from gas guzzlers toward smaller cars. So in our dynamic economy, smaller sectoral shifts occur frequently, contributing to the frictional unemployment. So what about the public policy and the job search? The government programs affecting the unemployment. We can see the government employment agencies that disseminate the info about job openings to better match workers and jobs. Also, the public job training programs that help workers displaced from declining industries get skills needed for jobs in the growing and the new industries. We have also the unemployment insurance. This is another policy that pays part of the worker's former wages for a limited time after losing his or her job. And also the unemployment insurance increases the search unemployment because it reduces the opportunity cost of being unemployed. This is how can some economists see yani, that the unemployment insurance increase the search unemployment because it reduces the opportunity cost of being unemployed. You now have an insurance or income, so this reduces your opportunity cost of being unemployed. Also, the urgency reduces the urgency of finding work. You are now not in a hurry to find work because you have insurance. Also reduces the job finding. So some studies see that the longer a worker is eligible for unemployment insurance, the longer the duration of average spell of the unemployment, which is illogical. But also there is some benefits for unemployment insurance, as by allowing workers more time to search, unemployment insurance may lead to better matches between jobs and workers, which would lead to greater productivity and higher income. So back again to why is there unemployment. As we see, as we know, the natural rate of unemployment, which the unemployed people divided by the labor force, or the job separations ratio divided by the sum of the job separation and job finding. So we said that we have two reasons why the F or the job findings is less than one. We see the job search and the fractional unemployment. Next lesson, inshallah, we will see the wage rigidity and another type of unemployment related to this reason. So, see you, inshallah, next lesson to finalize this chapter. So, goodbye and good luck.